All right. Hey, welcome everybody on Facebook. I'm excited today. I kind of messed up a little bit, messed up some time in here, but these guys are here, and I'd love to introduce Brian and Mary Murphy. They are rocking it up in New Jersey and running a real estate team as a husband and wife, which is really what I want to get into today because me and my wife are in business together too. So it sometimes it's like, so I'm excited to have you guys. Thank you so much for taking your time out to be with us.
Absolutely. We're excited to be here.
Yes, yes. So Brian, I haven't talked to you ever before, so I'm glad to finally meet you and see you. I've seen a lot of photos of you, and Mary posts a lot of great things about what you're doing. And didn't you just come back from an event? You were just out of town, right?
Yeah, I was just in Baton Rouge for a Google event, kind of getting your Google right.
Nice. How was that? Was that a good? Was that good? I bet you it was good.
Oh, it was awesome. It was jam packed with information.
Yeah,
Google
I bet.
is a big platform if you're able to do it right.
Yes, yes. So let's talk about you guys. I want to know everything I can about you. So I don't know who wants to start, if it's Mary, Brian, or tell us about who came into real estate first. When did you come in, and how did it all evolve to both of you guys in there?
Yeah, so I came first in 2015. And honestly, you got a little glimpse of us and just right off the bat with him going to a Google event. I go to so many events. That would be one that I wouldn't be able to sit in a room at. Like my eyes would just glaze over and it would just be way too much for me.
You're like me. That's me then.
Yeah, he's more of the operations, technical, systems person. So when I got into the business, I joined a team first. I did a couple of things, but I off the bat was really successful. Where my challenge came in was building the team the right way with the systems and operations end of it, and really just having that integrator role. So I knew what I needed. I knew I needed an integrator. I'd read Rocket Fuel and I was putting myself in every room I was supposed to be in. I understood that I was a visionary. What I was struggling doing was finding an integrator, right? And then all of a sudden it like hit me like a ton of bricks that I was married to my integrator. Right. So it was kind of like, it was really, we were away in Jamaica and Brian was really unhappy at his job. He was successful. He was, doing insurance, and he was with an insurance company at the time. And I remember the conversation in Jamaica where it was just like, I was hitting like 70 units a year, but I was going through admin and systems and dropping the ball. My customer service wasn't as best as I knew it could be. And just saying to him, like, babe, how like, when I want to do something or like I want to go on vacation or whatever it is, and you just take all of that and you put all the pieces together and make it happen, like, can you just come do that in my business? And not surprisingly, because we've always been great supporters of each other, but he was like, I mean, we can afford to do it, so let's do it.
Right.
And, I think it was like 2 weeks later that he joined me in real estate.
Yeah. Wow. The following Monday, right after vacation, I went into my office and turned in my 2 weeks.
Wow, that's really fast.
So they came back, everyone in my company, they're all asking how vacation was. And I was like, here's my 2 weeks.
Right. It was really good. Really good. Yeah. Well, that is crazy. So my wife and I are similar. We were both military, and I transitioned out first, started real estate in 2014. So I just started a year before you, and it started going really well. I was doing really well. I really loved it. And then my wife was still military. So I thought, doing the same thing. I was in the room with the right people. I was reading books. I was listening to books. I was watching videos. And I was like, look, in order for me to scale myself, I need somebody to help me on the back end, because the paperwork and that process just slowed me down tremendously for me. I'm the visionary, same thing, very out getting the business, see the vision, see where I want to go. And I needed that too. So she started just helping part-time, like at night, doing contracts or doing this. And then that evolved. And then finally I said, why don't you just get out of the military? You got like a year left or whatever, you get out. Why don't we just start a team? We joined together. And so something similar. It wasn't as fast as Brian. Brian was like, he was ready.
The funny thing was that Brian didn't come on to do administrative work, right? So like, I was looking for an integrator, but before I could really hire an integrator, I really had to have a good admin. But then I was going through admin, looking for the wrong thing. Either way, I finally did find, who's with us still now, an amazing executive assistant. She does all the paperwork. She does all the, back end contract and close.
Right.
So it's funny to figure out what it is that you need, because then I hired agents and all of that, but I didn't have the operations person, the one that's like, okay, this is the right CRM system, this is the right marketing platform, this is how we'll run our ISA team. So that's kind of what we're doing now, and that's Brian's role. I really couldn't ask him to put a listing for me in the MLS. It just that we tried that for a second, and we're like, all right, no, you're not my assistant, you're not going to do it for me. And he tried to be an agent for a minute too, because that's what the integrator does. They jump in and they're like, all right, where are we pick up the pieces? And he's like, well, damn, you're selling all listings. All these buyers are just falling on the floor. Like no one's even taking them. That for a minute. Now we're really in our groove where I really feel like he's in the spot he was meant to be in. And I'm talking for him, but loving it. And I'm in the spot where I'm meant to be in and not worrying about all the stuff that he's worrying about. I'm not good at it anyway. So you want to add to that and say?
No, and that's the key too, is, really figuring out what the roles are of each person, especially your wife, because people, lines cross in jobs all the time, but it's totally different when you're husband and wife, because you have that relationship, and all of a sudden, if lines cross, it could escalate 10, when you're married. So the key, and that was, one of the challenges in the beginning, just to find out what role was like, all right, this is where you are, you stay here, I stay here, and then we merge when we have to. And work. It works.
That is great. And I think that's a struggle from a lot of, not just real estate, but couples that are in business together, is what is my role versus your role, right? And then if they do intertwine sometimes, how do you work through that? Sometimes it's hard. And then, there's so much to it. So we'll get into that too, about, how does it bleed into personal when you get home? And is that all we're talking about? Because I know sometimes that happens to us. Our kids are like, oh my God, so, but no, that's very interesting. You said all that. So that's what happens. And you said a good point too, Mary, and you got to put people in the right seat, right? It's somebody has said that. I've heard it. It's not me. I didn't come up with that. Somebody said it. And I kept hearing that, is put people in the right seat, and that's going to drive you. It might've been Kyle Whistle, drive your business. Cause sometimes you hire people, right? You think they're your admin or your buyer's agent or whatever. And then you realize this buyer's agent's a better admin. Like she or he's really good. And then all of a sudden that turn of events or that change of a position really sets you off in the right direction. And that's kind of what happened with us. Brittany ended up being a good admin, but she runs our day-to-day operations. Now we have another admin who is a buyer of mine who I would, die for, and she keeps our team in, she's been with me 4 years, or with us 4 years, but you're right. That was a good point of got to put people in the right seat too. And so we eventually got
it starts with understanding what your needs are first, because I think I really learned the hard way and learned fast that that's exactly what I was doing. Right. So my first admin wanted to be an agent. So I moved her from admin to agent, and then I didn't have an admin because now she wasn't an admin anymore. And then I hired another admin, and then my third admin probably would have been a great director of operations, but I needed an admin. I was taking a ton of listings, and I needed an admin, and she hated the transaction to close. So she didn't work out. And then our current executive assistant right now, who's amazing, was my buyer's agent at the time. And it was literally like everything's falling apart. Brian wasn't with me yet. And I'm like, I have 3 agents and I have all this business. And I'm like, I remember having the conversation with her and saying, this is the worst day of my life. Like I have to put 3 listings in. I've got to do a contract. I have to prep for a listing appointment. I hate this so much. And she was like, I'll do all of that. I never want to do an open house again. So I was like, okay. So she moved into the admin role, and
she's like, thank God.
She's like, yes, let me. And she probably was losing her mind watching me as disorganized as I am, trying to do all this crap all together. It's just funny how that's why if you get in the right rooms, though, I think part of me being in the right rooms was how I was able to recognize it so fast. But now that I've recognized it, I feel like I'm really good at helping people recognize it even faster, or not making that mistake at all.
Right. Absolutely right. Absolutely. Great point. So let me ask you this. Let's go to, so you guys now are working together. Now, how do you, Brian, I'll go to you. Let's see. How do you, kind of deal with that at home too? Is there a lot of, as they call it, pillow talk, and or are you guys able to really turn it off? Like when I know it's hard to turn off when you're a top producing team. It's just hard. So
I feel like the evenings it's a little easier to turn off. Like at night we're kind of winding down. But the mornings, I mean, one of the best times where we get a lot of stuff accomplished is 6:30 in the morning. We're having a cup of coffee, kids are still sleeping, and we get a chance to kind of plan out our day.
Nice.
So the mornings, a lot of times, it's a lot of work stuff in the morning. But once the kids are up, then they're the priority. And it's all them. And then once they go to school, we get in the office. It's back to work, and then the evenings, we do a pretty good job of kind of keeping that work separate.
Nice. That's good. Yeah.
We're intentional about it. I mean, that 30 minutes in the morning is important to both of us, I think. Like we have to have that coffee. It's like, all right, what are the rocks today?
Right.
And we kind of go through that. We enjoy our coffee. We enjoy that conversation. And
That's
then
good.
like he said, it does work out.
Right. Now, how many kids do you guys have?
Two girls. Yeah.
2 girls. Awesome.
Almost 8 and just turned 10.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I have 3, 2 girls, one little 2-year-old. Whoa, man. And he's a boy. He's the boy. So, man, boys are crazy. I mean, I know I was crazy as a boy, but man, at first they always say, kids is rough and this and that. So when the girls, I'm like, man, this is kind of easy. They're not crazy. They don't really get into a lot. But man, now I know they're talking about boys. And when you get so my little boy is 2 and he's just like all over everything, man. He attacks his sisters, attacks his dogs. He's in cupboards. He's in, you name it. So it's crazy, but just going, that's for sure. So, no, but that's interesting. So, okay. So now in your first year, did you guys start the team in your first year or was it your second year or how did that go?
So I started in 2015. I started my team, the Murphy Group, in the middle of 2018. And Brian didn't join me. So I was starting the team. I was just like hiring and firing, and it was like a revolving door of mess.
Yeah.
Right. So that was 2018 till 2000. Brian joined me at the end of 2019. So he didn't come over until right before we came over to EXP.
Okay.
February of 2020.
Right. Gotcha.
And then we actually spent so after I made all that mess for that year and a half, 2020, we kind of were like, all right, let's get this right. The system's right. The process is right. And really figure out what the vision is for this team. And we're not going to grow it right now. We're just going to build it first. And so that's what we did for 2020. 2020, we really didn't hire till the end of the year. And that we put our systems together. 2021 is when we had that stuff together and then we started growing. So in 2019, it was pretty much just me in production, about 70 units. 2020 and 2019 were both like 70 units, almost the same.
Right.
2021, this year we'll do just under 150.
Nice.
And then now in 2022, our goal is 300. Now that we have the systems in place, we can do that.
Awesome.
We can grow.
Right. No, absolutely. That is excellent. Okay. So now you guys just came to EXP not too long ago, kind of like me as well. Where were you at before? Like what company, or were you independent? What were you doing?
We were with Keller Williams. So my first 5 years in real estate, I was Keller Williams.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. So, man, I think EXP is majority Keller Williams. Everybody I meet was Keller Williams at one point or something. Now, who is Jay your direct sponsor? Or
yes, Jay's my direct sponsor.
Okay, me too.
There was really no EXP in our area. It's really funny. It's changed a lot since we've been here. But it was definitely a big leap of faith because Keller Williams dominates our area. Still, I mean, there's the most agents in our area. There's like 5 offices within 20 minutes of each other, and they must have 2,000 agents between them.
Right.
So, and there was no EXP. EXP was actually a joke. Like people made fun of it. Like no one sells there; they just recruit. So it was a really big leap of faith for us to come over, and it was just me. Brian had just gotten his license, like. I think the ink was still wet
before. Yeah.
And so just us 3 came and then the whole world shut down. Right. So it was definitely a crazy move and the best one we could have ever made. And it was just taking that. It felt risky. It was really scary.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, like from the move from Keller to EXP, like how did that go in a sense of like, what was it you guys kind of researching it and you stumble upon EXP and you kept, you couldn't unsee it is what Jay says. Once you see it, you can't unsee it. Or was it just somebody calling you saying, hey, you need to come over? I mean, how did that go?
Yeah, I always joke that no one's ever tried to recruit me because no one has ever tried to recruit me. I don't know why, but it was always me, always looking and reevaluating constantly
Mm-hmm.
where we are in our business, what's happening and how I can improve. And I was always flying to be in rooms. So at KW, I had a MAPS coach since my first year in the business, paying $1,000 a month. And
Mm-hmm.
I was going to a family reunion. I was going to all these things. And so I always joke that Gary Keller recruited me to EXP because he was on stage just calling it Donkey Kong real estate or whatever he was saying. And he was talking about it. And then I saw some big players that I had seen speak at conferences prior to that, like Dan Beer, Dave DeVoe. And I was like, well, and I could feel the threat in his voice. So it's kind of like, what is going on over there? Like, I got to look this up. Like, I didn't even really know about it.
Right.
But that was really how it happened is I just started Googling it.
Yep.
And then I found Jay and I reached out to Jay on Facebook. And then Brian and we talked about everything. He was on this whole journey with me. But at that time, like he was kind of like just so new to real estate. It made sense to him on a business standpoint, right?
Right.
That's how I looked at it. So I was kind of breaking it down that way. Like once we started researching it, and she ended up meeting with Jay, but I haven't talked to I didn't talk to him because obviously she was the one that establishing the business, so she's doing all the conversations with Jay, and I just looked at it just strictly just financial. Like I sat down, I was looking at model versus model, and I'm like, if we want to grow to where we want to grow, like this is the model to be at.
Right. No, see,
like that it wasn't saturated yet.
Yeah.
That was the other thing.
Right.
Like, I can't grow Keller Williams. I'm not going to open a market center. There's no space. They're open. They're established, and I'm not even close to next in line. So how can we build something big without taking on all the liability of going independent? So that was really the conversations that we were having. And I looked at it for a year before I did it. But once he was with me and I could see the pieces falling into place and knowing that I just kept hitting ceilings. My whole career was hitting ceilings and moving from one team to another team, to one position to another position, to on my own.
Right.
Then after I met with Jay, I think it took me 6 days.
Yeah.
Like, it was like, all right, this is
it, right? So you mentioned a lot of good points there. Both of you did. So I want to try to get to all of them. So Mary, you just mentioned now, did you start on a team or did you start on your own?
I started on a team. So I believe in teams so much. I started as a buyer's agent because I knew that I needed to make money and get into production really fast. And I didn't have time to learn every aspect of the business. So let me just sell. Let me just learn how to sell. So I joined a team in my first year, sold 37 houses.
Wow. In your first year?
Mm-hmm.
Nice.
First 11 months. So I got licensed in January. And by the end of that year, I had sold 37 houses. Wow.
See, now that's what I'm a firm believer is I believe that people should be looking to select, EXP is a great company. No doubt. I love it. It's been the best thing for us, but they should look and focus on teams, I think, to find team leaders like yourself and Brian, right? Because it helps them in the long run versus like you and I are like, well, you went to a team and you learned a little and your production was there. I was on my own. I didn't go to a team. There wasn't hardly any teams here then at all. And then I went through all the ups and downs, spending money and losing it and not investing here, being all over the place. Versus if I would have had a team and I could have went to the Murphy group, right? You guys, and then I would have learned how to be an agent, systems that can help me and just, it would have been so much faster and easier. And a lot less money too, so
maybe not, right? Because it really depends on the team that you join and what you learn while you're there. Sometimes
Very
I think
true.
if I would have started on my own, some things would have been faster. So there's no wrong way to do it. And the thing is, you can't go backwards and change how you did it. So
right. True. That makes perfect sense. You definitely got to pick the right group mentor or team leader, right? A lot of people like in our market, there's a lot of teams, but those team leaders aren't able to really teach an agent how to be a producer. They can say, hey, I've got a model home I need agents to sit out, or I have this or that, a lead here and there, but don't teach them the business, right? So that agent never can leave the team and prosper, right? They may know how to convert an online lead, but if they don't have the money to buy the online lead, then they're no good, right? So that's kind of what we deal with here for the most part. But no, that's interesting. You said that. So now, and you didn't, as far as Keller Williams, you didn't see like any growth there, any promotion, right?
Well, I did for a while, right? So I started from a buyer's agent, then I went to another, then I was a listing agent. I crushed it. I started built my business on for sale by owners and expireds. So I just was really good at prospecting, and then joined another team. I think I always had a passion for like just giving back and teaching, and so I joined another team, what they called like an expansion director, meaning that I was really a team leader for a team. And my job was to go out and recruit for that team at the same time, sell houses and do both at the same time.
Yep.
And I loved the concept of that, even though that model didn't work for me. And then it just got to a point where I was like, well, and I could have been a team leader at KW, but it would have been a very big pay cut. I couldn't possibly do that when I was selling the amount that I was. So I think it was just trying to figure out where I wanted to spend my time.
Right.
And how I can spend my time. And we talk about it all the time on our team. How do we get everyone just in their strength zone?
Yeah.
If we can get you spending 80% of your time in your strength zone, then you're going to live a happy life and it'll be prosperous. So I think that's how it kind of came up, where I was like, and I just felt like I'd hit a ceiling, and I didn't know when I looked around me who I could turn to help me.
Right.
I was already getting to the top of the office. Anyone who was out producing me had been doing it for 30 years. And I'm like, I don't know who to turn to. So that's how I came here, was just the people here made sense that I could learn from them.
Yeah, absolutely. Good point. So going back into like the promotion piece, the thing that I loved about EXP, like, so I was at a traditional brokerage. I was at a Coldwell Banker who's number one here. They dominate here. The owner owns like, 27 offices up the coast here. So it's every little place you go, there's a Coldwell Banker there that he owns, right? So I was there. So it was a traditional split. There was really no promotion in sight for me unless I sold like a tremendous amount more. I mean, tremendous, like double, right? Then I would get 3% more, right? But I still pay 6% franchise, right? So for me, I was interviewing a RE/MAX agent. Long story, they hired me to be a recruiter for them, actually. I stepped away from my team. I went on the staff, started doing recruiting and some training to agents. And I was sitting with a RE/MAX agent, and he told me, he's like, look, I'm just not interested. He actually was coming to EXP, which I didn't know that, but he joined right before we did. But he said, there's no promotion in sight there. Like there's no way for me to get promoted in this system that you have and your commission scale. And I didn't really understand that. Like, I was like, well, I don't get that. So when I left, I started thinking about it. I'm like, that's right. There's no cap, right? There's no rev share. There's no stuff. There's nothing else that I could do except for me all day is just to sell more, sell more, sell more. And that's what they want you to do. Most of the franchisers say it, just, hey, you make more money, you just got to sell more. Well, yeah, I mean,
that was a big part of our conversation too, where we could go places where they were going to write us checks.
Right. Oh yeah.
Give us sign-on bonuses. But I'm like, if I can't cap, like, we were looking at a trajectory. I'm like, all right.
It's the short-term money, right? That's what, and people are going for that. It happens all the time, even here. So, man, I just forgot. Brian had mentioned something, and I wanted to touch on that. It was about that, like, short-term money. I can't remember now. I lost it again.
You can't get promoted. You were
Can't
talking
get
about
promoted. Oh no, Brian looked at the model from like an outsider, right? Just logically, not with emotion, right? Like, as a real estate agent, we know the broker charge. We know agent. We like this office. We, whatever. So that is huge, right? Because you don't get that normally. So Brian, it was right on. When you said it, I was like, that's exactly right. Because that's what happened to me. I had to just take everything and put it up so I could see it, right? And then I looked at the models and I just, okay, commission. Okay, the same. Okay, no franchise fee. EXP check. Rev share. EXP check, right? I just started doing that and just taking emotion away from it. And it was a no-brainer, but I had to do that with my wife. Like, she's like, why would we move? We do well. We're one of the top teams. We like the owners, we this and that. And I said, I need you to just look at it, like Brian, and just look at it and just go down the list and then tell me what you think. And she's like, are you kidding me? So she starts going down, she was seeing it like logically, like this only makes sense to go. So I'm glad you mentioned that, Brian, because people, it's hard to do that. And so let me flip it back on you two. So on the recruiting piece, do you have a hard time with that? Like saying, hey, Johnny or Jessica, like, think logically, not by emotion, and just look at, does that come into play a lot for you guys?
I mean, it has to. I mean, because you got to try getting people to look at it logically, and then the biggest thing is getting them to actually go through the process like you went through with your wife and we went through, where you sit down and actually just look at the numbers. Because a lot of people, they'll just look, if they're getting recruited by another company that's going to offer to pay that upfront money, they have to look and say, all right, well, how long is it going to take for you to pay that money back plus some to that company, compared to if you were here and you know you're only paying this cap to the company, and where that break-even point is going to be. And usually their break-even point's way quicker than they would ever imagine, with where they would start saving big time at EXP compared to those other models that'll give the checks.
Well, and the sign-on bonus is a high-interest loan. So that's what we started to look at. We considered one, and we're like, and I'm like, but wait a minute. I got to sign on for first 3 years. They would reduce it for 2 years. And I had several companies that were offering me, the ability to do this, right? So then we're like, but we're going to pay it back, and we're going to double our business again next year. And then again, like we had big visions of what we were going to do. And so that's kind of how we have that conversation. It's just kind of like, just do the math. We talk about math all the time. Depends on the agent, right? I was looking for growth and alignment and financial alignment. And then I was looking for, it wasn't really about dollars and cents for us. He understood the dollars and cents. He's like, all right, Mayor, if this is wrong, you're going to icon. The cap's already lower, so who cares? Let's try it. He looked at the math. I was like, who am I going to be surrounded by to get to the level that we want to get to? And at the other companies, they were definitely not that. And then he was running the numbers on like, we're going to pay them back anyway. Like, we don't know now, let's not take it. Like,
no. And you guys, and just for me, I'm not the smartest guy, but both of you guys really were on the same page, right? Because he's thinking the numbers, but you're thinking, if I can partner with Jay Kinder and his group, I'm going to learn. And obviously that's going to help the production, right? It's going to take you to a different level that obviously is going to change. Now you're going to Brian, the numbers too. It's going to help the numbers no matter what. So both of you two are basically right on the same path.
And I really didn't want to talk about the attraction part. So Jay will joke all the time. If you ever ask him, like, I'd be like, listen, tell me how you sold 530 homes a year, and I'm on board. I don't want to talk about recruiting. I'm not coming over here to recruit all my friends. I don't want to do it. Don't talk about it. I'm not interested. And I didn't for the first year. We really didn't even focus on that at all. Because one, I wanted to make sure it was the real deal. I'm a pretty straightforward, honest person. Now I tell my friends sometimes, I'm like, you're making a mistake by not looking at it. But if you don't want to, that's fine. But that's really the difference.
So you got 5 minutes, a couple minutes, right? We got 3 minutes, maybe.
No, she has her call right now.
I'm actually over time, but finish up with Brian. I loved being here, David. Always a good time to see you, and you guys can finish up.
Okay, thanks, Mary. Go get it. All right, I'll finish up with you, Brian. So I was just gonna really finish up with. So tell us where you're at now. Like, how many people are on your team? What are you looking to do for the end of the year? Where you're going next year.
So this is one of the amazing parts, and kind of where Mary goes into aligning with the right people, right? So we knew initially when we first started last year, it was just getting the business organized, putting us in place. So at that time, it was literally in 2020, it was Mary, it was myself, and it was Jen, our executive assistant. Then this year, now we're at 10 agents right now. So we have 10 agents. We have Jen still as our executive assistant. She's also like the listing manager. We have a transaction coordinator. We have 2 ISAs. So it's growing a lot. Our goal for 2022, we want a big push for us right now is adding more agents. So we need more agents. So our goal is to get to 30 agents by the end of June.
Nice.
We want to have 50 by the end of 2020. By the end of 2022, we want 50 agents. And
wow.
At that point, so that's where our goal for 2022 is 300 units. So this year we'll do just under 150. We'll end up with like 146 for 40 million. So next year the goal is 300 and start knocking on the door to the $100 million volume. Yeah. Again, so a lot of that comes from and what's funny, before I was in the business, I always thought Mary was nuts. I'm like, what? You're a coach, you're doing all this stuff, you're traveling everywhere, you're going to all these conferences. But now this year, I think Mary and I think at least 12 different occasions this year. We flew somewhere. Some we went together, some we went on our own based on the strengths. So Mary would go to certain more of the sales events, on her own. Then I went to a couple on my own this year. So now like I'm fully involved with her. I mean, now, we're getting having coaches, we're traveling everywhere.
Now you're crazy, Brian. See, you're crazy.
So now I'm crazy too. So now I know where she got it from, and why she was doing it, because now I see the value. So
right,
like just this past weekend with the Google event, I was at John Sheplak's place in Baton Rouge, real estate coach, and just with Joseph Lee, who's one of the top Google experts in the world in the real estate industry. And this was one of those. It was like last minute. We didn't have any. It wasn't going to happen. It was just all of a sudden. It was like literally the day before, or I think it was Thursday. That was Saturday, and she's like, "I think you got to go to this one." Yeah. So literally, it was on Thursday. I booked my flight for Friday.
That was it.
And immediately start implementing stuff. So it's getting in those rooms with those people that are doing it at the levels you want to get to. So when I sit in rooms with people that are doing 1,000+ transactions, I'm like, that's where we want to go. So that's where I want to be. And so far it's been amazing.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's one of the things that I really value. Like it's the top of my list. I think, like Mary said too, is being able to partner and just to call like you guys, or to do an interview with you and to learn, and call Jay or Kyle Whistle, Daniel, like Veronica Figueroa, like all these agents you can call. And I've talked to every one of them, and they've answered or sent things to me, based on sales, right? Hey, do you have a spreadsheet for this? Or what do you do here? That will take your business in such a direction that is so undervalued with a lot of agents. Like we've got agents here in our market that are just stuck on the traditional brick and mortar. And I keep telling them, listen, you're stuck within them walls, right? Like you got to get out of the wall. There's so much more out there, and our platform is the biggest.
Oh, and the thing that I think is really paid off the most of making the move, because like you just said, when you're in those brick and mortars, like that's who you're learning from. So the people that you're learning from that are teaching the classes are the best of who's in that particular brick and mortar office.
Right.
This, like now, literally, everyone is open. They're willing to share everything. Like we've had conversations, like you say, Kyle Whistle, like Dan Beer, like all these people, and then we have other connections that we've met through one of our coaches. People in this group that are just top agents all over the country. Just we know at any time if we have a question about anything, and we know there's someone else that we know that's doing what we're kind of thinking, we call them. They'll give up the whole playbook, and it's amazing. So it's basically a way to come over and just speed up your growth trajectory, because people that have already made the mistakes and been through it and have gotten it right are going to be willing to share what they got right to get to where they are. And then you just start implementing. Then it just comes down to action. I mean, everyone can travel. You can go to all the conferences you want, but it means a lot of nothing if you take the action on it.
Right. Yep. And I think, exactly what you said. I totally agree with all that. I think the difference too is what I always try to tell people is, listen, you may have a top producer come in that's in your office, right? And they may give a class here and there, right? It's not going to be consistent though, but say they give a class, but they're not opening up their playbook. They're not saying, hey, here are the systems I use. Here's my scripts. Here's what has made me successful. What hasn't, right? Or my team, or like, it's such a difference. I've been to a couple of different franchises I work for, and EXP is so different. It's not that way. Everybody is helping each other, and they really open up playbooks. I mean, like Shiplak, like I never heard of him until I came to EXP. I know he's been around for years, but ultimately for a long time, he's done a lot of great things. But, ultimately because of EXP, there's a lot of things that I never would have. My eyes were not seeing any of that because I was just in that traditional bubble, right? So it's so undervalued. That's what
Mary saw. Like when she was really thinking about making that move, when she did, a lot of it, like she said, like mine was kind of financially, I was looking at numbers. She's like, I don't have access to these people, but here over at EXP, like I see all these people, and I can be aligned with someone like Jay Kinder, and all the people in his group. And then she's like, that's the people I need to be talking to.
Right.
And she knew going to EXP was going to give her access to those people to learn and, kind of figure out how to run the business and grow the business like they have.
Right. Absolutely. I think it's such an undervalued piece. And, unfortunately, a lot of agents are looking more of the bonuses, right? Or the sign-on or different commissions. There's different companies.
Yeah. Or, this company is going to pay for my signs. They're going to do that. Like,
right.
That's all great, but you're talking small, short-sighted stuff when, of our signs really so buy your signs and save a ton of money.
Right. Because, the signs and stuff like that, of course you think about it, like how much is going to cost us to move and all that, but ultimately it's one-time fees, right? For me, like when me and my wife broke it down, we looked at what are we paying in franchise fees? And then could we run our new team or our team and our new office, all this off of that franchise fee or cheaper with even signs and everything? And it was 50% of the franchise fee I was paid for the entire move and remarketing, just 50%. So I saved the other, it was like 25 grand. I saved the other 12 grand.
Yeah.
Because of the
right off the bat. You just
right. But people are thinking so short term, like, I gotta buy signs. Oh my God. They're really not that expensive. But ultimately, you're gonna pay for those signs with franchise.
Tenfold. Oh yeah.
Way more than you would, $1,000 or $1,200, whatever it may be, $1,500. Yeah, okay. But you're paying all your closings for the year is going to be 20,000 or whatever it may be, depending on split. The numbers always are better, if you really look at it that way. So that's awesome, man, that you were able to, dissect that. So I do that a lot too. I look at the business numbers and, but my wife thinks I'm crazy as well. So, but everything works out, right? We eventually get to where we
need. A lot of people in this business are a little bit crazy. Everyone's
right.
a little bit crazy.
Yeah. I think you have to be a little bit, and you got to really, sometimes you just got to take those chances, right? And and like you guys did, you guys went from the top company that's right there to something that was really new,
really unknown, and actually looked down on this area, because everyone wants to make fun of it and say, oh, they're a MLM company and they're this, and they're that, and no one actually sells. And you just got to. Then now we look, and now we see just mega agent after mega agent leaving their brokerage and coming over to EXP.
Right. No, absolutely. It's constant. Yep.
Now it's a major force, and it's taking the whole industry by storm right now. That's for sure.
Yep. I think it's going to keep growing, keep getting bigger. So look, I don't want to take too much of your time. I know you guys are busy, so I want to wrap it up now. Is there anything else you want to leave us with, or anything you think you want to let anybody know, thinking about maybe making the move to EXP or?
Definitely just reach out and talk to someone about it, and just like I mentioned earlier, look at it logically. Take emotion out and just sit down, look at whatever either your current brokerage or whatever you're considering, and compare it to EXP. And it's hands down. There's nothing that compares to this one. And other than there's a reason that we're shooting for 1 million agents in 10 years.
Yep.
And it's going to happen.
That's right. Yeah. Yep. That's right. And I think it happened too. So, all right, man. Well, thank you so much, Brian. It was great to meet you. Hopefully I'll meet you soon in person.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So keep Mary straight, keep her out of trouble. I know you will. Tell her thank you. And I'll talk to you guys soon. All right.
All right. Sounds good. Thanks a lot.
All right,
Have a good one.
Thank you, sir.